was it difficult to be making a lot of money and doing really well, but be going to a coffee shop and no one really around you aware of the impact you were creating?
Yeah, it was an interesting tension. I remember talking to a reporter about that. Maybe the first news story that really happened on ConvertKit in like the local paper, the Idaho Statesman, which from you nodding is probably what you read, um, which is interesting. I actually only recently reread that article. It's a fascinating thing. I think the thing that I struggled with the most is a fun thing about blogging and writing is that it gets attention. And I wanted to feel a sense of belonging. Like when I went to a conference, I was the person who was very introverted, would not introduce myself to anyone, all of that. And so once I started writing and blogging, people would introduce themselves to me and want to talk to me like, oh, you're Nathan, you wrote, whatever thing. And like, I remember this moment at a conference where someone came up to me and said, like, there's a whole circle of people and we're all talking. And I was sort of at the center of it, I guess. Like the more, people were more listening. It was a conversation, but like around me in that way. And someone like kind of butted in and said like, hey, if my friends knew that I showed up to, like, I was at the same conference as Nathan Barry and I didn't say hi, they wouldn't let me live it down.
Wow.
And I had a couple thoughts. Like one, I was the person, like a year earlier who wouldn't talk to anyone at a conference because I was too shy to introduce myself. So this is awesome. Like I don't have to do any work. Two, this is all because of writing. So I guess thanks, Mom. Like, writing is such a superpower for that because I can put out these blog posts on the internet and then people want to meet me. Like that's completely crazy. But then there was the other side of it of building ConvertKit, and the software company it was way more successful, but it didn't have the same profile at all because like you're behind the scenes. So I remember ConvertKit making, millions of dollars a year in revenue compared to the writing business making like $200,000, $300,000 a year, which was amazing. But it was like writing business was earning this, ConvertKit was earning this, but the profiles were switched. And it took me a while to just kind of reconcile that of what to do with it. And then especially operating out of Boise. Like there were companies here in Boise, there's a decent tech scene here. They were really good at Boise press and all of that. They opened an office. They were the best place to work. And, in ConvertKit being a remote company and us never really pushing for the press side of it, there were definitely moments where it was like, wait, we have more revenue than them. We're doing more interesting things. Why aren't people writing about us? And the fact of the matter is, if you decide that attention is important to you, then you have to pursue it because that, complaining that people aren't writing about you or you're not getting the press or the stories is sort of like complaining that people aren't buying your product, but you're not willing to do sales, right? Like you have to realize that press is a direct result of effort put into publicity and talking to reporters and pitching a story and creating a narrative. And so, that was a good thing to let go of and realize, okay, I care a lot more about the business results and the impact than I do about the cover story.
How important is attention today for you?
I mean, I definitely appreciate it. It's important. I guess I like both sides of it. I like that I've built ConvertKit as a business that, we remember a time, this was back in 2017, 2018, maybe. I was in Denver for some reason and I like found ConvertKit customers in Denver, sent out emails because I was just like, let me just meet up with ConvertKit customers for coffee. People were like, who are you? Like ConvertKit had gotten big enough and my profile, had switched where ConvertKit was the brand and all of that. And so people didn't even know that like I had founded the company. And there's elements of that that's really nice because you can build something that's so much bigger than you. But I do try to keep these things in balance of like, I don't want to fade totally into the background. And so I do enjoy producing content. That's why I restarted my podcast, and started doing interviews again, and all of that. So it's a balance. I probably think of it also as how can it serve the business. So there are some things that to make a better story, you need a public founder. Let's maybe take a different angle. Let's say you want to talk about a software company on the Today Show, Good Morning America, something like that, right? That is a very hard thing to do. Like, why would they ever talk about ConvertKit? But they talk about new books all the time. So James Clear with Atomic Habits to get on CBS or any of these things, that is a well-known thing. If people are like, oh, author, new book, here's how it's relevant. Great, let's have them on. So if I were to traditionally publish a book, which is something that I'm working on, that could get a lot of publicity with less effort, in that mainstream channel than, for example, way more effort put into like, here's why you should care about ConvertKit. And they're like, we don't talk about software companies. But with the book, I could say, here's this book. It's called Create Every Day. It comes from my desire as an individual to help people earn a living. That's actually the mission of our company, is we exist to help creators earn a living. And it ties in much more naturally. And so I guess it's all a balance. Sometimes there's pros and sometimes there's benefits to having the company brand be a lot bigger. And then there's other like specific jobs to be done where, as the founder, the individual attention and notoriety is really worth quite a bit. So, like all things, it's a balance.